soon as it hits 4:30, or as my iPad says, 2:30.
2:30.
Mine always says 2:30.
Yeah, Chris, all the iPads were down today, if they didn't tell you. No. IT had to come in and reset them all.
I helped
Good
everybody out, Chris.
afternoon. It's 4:30 PM on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. We will call the City Council meeting of the City of New Ulm to order. Item number 1, consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve those.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Okay, it looks like we are tabling item number 2.1. That being said, we will move on to item number 2.2, the public hearing on the final plat of Milford Heights 7th edition. Mr. Schnobrick, hello.
Madam President, members of the City Council, this particular plat has been submitted by Al Paler on behalf of S&P Development LLC. The property is currently described as Lot 8 through 13, Block 2, Milford Heights, 2nd edition. So that's 6 lots. Street address of the property is 633 to 653 Haberly Avenue. Property is generally located west of Haberly Avenue and south of Beinhorn Street. The area to be platted was originally intended for the construction of townhomes. The owner has decided to instead construct 2 twin homes there and is therefore reducing the number of lots from 6 to 4. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the final plat with conditions at its October 27th, 2022 meeting. There is one outstanding condition, and that is that the applicant pay the platting fee of $295. That would conclude the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobrick.
One question, Dave, immaterial, but item 3, the status of the unused utilities, and there were no comments from the city or PUC, so they're just going to remain
Yes.
tapped in? Don't we have that rule, PUC or somebody, where they're supposed to be capped if they're unused?
I would defer to the city engineer, maybe.
PUC did have a chance to review it, and they didn't come back with any requirements for this round. So,
Okay. But that is still in place, right, Joe? They're
Yeah.
supposed to technically be capped off if they're not going to be used?
right, yep. That's a PUC regulation.
Right.
Yeah.
We've had this before, and it's the final plot. I'm going to recommend approval of the final plot of Milford Heights 7th edition with conditions.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
It was a public hearing, so we got to officially close the public hearing.
Councilor Mack? did
I'll
you wanna-
offer a motion to close the public hearing and approve with conditions.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second, which would be closing the public hearing. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 2.3, public hearing on the final plat of the Dreamville New Ulm addition.
Okay, the first thing I would like to do is to draw your attention to the proposed action that's listed on the request for council action. And that is for you to, at the conclusion of the public hearing, to simply just close the public hearing and take no further action at that time. Now, you have conducted previously a public hearing on this particular plat, and that was done at your October 18th meeting. And unfortunately, staff failed to use the correct plat name in the public hearing notice that was published in the Journal. And that was a mistake that was made by myself. And as a result, it's necessary to conduct a new public hearing. And so I'll quickly go through this, since you heard this all a month ago. The applicant in this case is Elvin Johnson on behalf of HHF Dreamville New Ulm LLC. Current legal description is part of the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter in Section 24, Township 110, Range 31 West. Approximate street address is 1800 North Highland Avenue. And the property location is east of North Highland Avenue, excuse me, and south of Maplewood Drive. The total lot area that is being platted is 7.61 acres. The plat consists of one lot, and right-of-way is also provided for Ryan Road. The property has been annexed into the city, and that was effective September 21st, 2022. The property owner is proposing to develop the property for a mix of residential housing units. They would be for rental purposes, and there would be 118 units. Construction on the project is scheduled to start sometime in the spring of 2023. There are 3 outstanding conditions. One is to pay the platting fee of $205, and that payment is pending. 2 is to pay the parkland dedication fee of $1,050, and that payment is pending. 3 is to provide an electronic file of the plat in an AutoCAD or newer format. Approval of the development agreement is also pending. I should note that we also have some items having to do with filing of the appropriate resolutions. The plat needs to be approved by December 1st. I don't believe we're going to be able to make that date, so we will have to change that particular item. And that would conclude the conditions. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the plat at their September meeting. That would conclude the staff report.
So Dave, you're saying we just need to close the public hearing?
Yes.
So considering this is probably your only mistake this entire year, I'm going to go ahead and offer a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any additional discussion?
Thank you for being so generous.
My only question is, when we'd have to change the date here for the December 1st, is that anything we'll need to take action on, or just that?
That will be a modification that'll be necessary at the time when we approve the final plat.
Okay, so that has no bearing on approval today?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, any additional discussion? All right, those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion does carry. This public hearing is closed. Item number 2.4, a public hearing on special assessments 2022 delinquent water and wastewater assessments.
Counselors, I'll explain this very quickly. In the past, with the water and sewer assessments, we would have waited until a property was sold and an assessment search was done in order to certify those to the taxes or to the property. We've learned we don't have to wait for that, and in order to stay more current on some of those charges, we're going back, and each year we'll be certifying any delinquent water and sewer charges to the properties. What we're finding is a lot of these are for rentals, so it's properties that renters have moved out of and left these water and sewer charges unpaid. So it will unfortunately falls to the property owner to pay those. So all of these property owners received notice. It was published in the paper. We heard from several of the owners, and most of the time we just explained the process, and they were okay with it. Several of them have been paid. About $1,800 has been paid to date on the original list. There's still about $7,000 remaining, $7,800 remaining in total. Some of the bigger charges are on properties that have been vacant for quite a while, and all of the other utilities have been disconnected, but the water and sewer charges are there. They exist as long as that property is still standing, so they continue to accumulate. So if you have any questions, otherwise this is a public hearing too.
Madam Chair, we do have several
Yes,
people that
yep,
want to
no,
talk about this.
but, yes, this is a public hearing. Would anyone care to be heard? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
All right, my name is Amy Schlattman, and I'm gonna here speak for my dad. He is one that did have a rental unit that was assessed, and for the sewer and water, but we're not aware of it. We did not see it in the paper, and we didn't get any notification until we got a letter on October 28th of this year, and the sewer that my dad's getting billed for is from December of 2021 through May of 2022. So, and because we didn't know this, we could have evicted the tenant because it is in their contract that they are responsible for all the utilities. So now they got to live there and rack up the bills that we were unaware of that were accruing. So it would just be nice, like in the future, if the city could let the landlords know a little earlier, instead of, 9 months, 10 months later that they were due. And also, to make matters worse, we came in and the ladies mentioned that the tenants had moved out, and we said, no, they did not. And here they had somebody else come in and put the utilities on somebody else's name that does not legally live in that house. So now we have no legally binding contract with this Donovan guy that put his name on these utilities. So now my question is, who's going to be responsible for the sewer and water charges, because we have nobody we can evict because that guy does not live there. So I did contact a lawyer, and she said, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do because the city allowed him to do it. So I guess what we're asking is, everybody makes mistakes, we get it, but we're just asking, and we asked them to put on my dad's account now to see the signed lease, and they did. The ladies were fabulous, wonderful staff. Their honesty was greatly appreciated. So I guess we're just asking you to please consider my dad this one time, the $339.59 that he owes him back up in sewer and water. And just forgive him this one time, because this is not the type of guy that he is, that would not pay it. So please consider, and I do have written documents and emails from a lawyer and whatever else you need. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole, your thoughts on that?
We have made some process changes after our conversation with them. Typically in the past, the accounts that we ask for copies of leases on are the accounts that we know, or the properties we know that are problem properties. They've never had a problem at that property before, so we had no reason to question anybody new signing into that property. And the other reason for the delay is, so the landlord receives notice of they receive the final notice when the person is initially disconnected, but once that final notice has been sent and the things have gone unpaid, there's a 4-month process that we go through in which the person whose name the account was in gets a delinquent letter before we send the portion to collections that we can send to collections. But the landlord does not normally receive a copy of that letter. So we're looking into what changes we can make there as well. So we're trying to come up with some processes so that will work better to keep some of the landlords more informed about what's happening at their properties.
This is probably a PUC question, but, what does someone need to come in and set up utilities in their name?
They just need to tell us what address they're moving into. Generally, someone's not going to take responsibility for utilities unless they're going to pay them. And, that's
That's
most
true.
of our customers. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not usually an issue. Like I said, we do have the properties where we know there's a revolving door at those properties that we do ask for a copy of a lease to make sure that they should be at that property.
My surprise is that it was only $7,000. Do you know how far back these go? These were saying
This was
December?
just for the last year or so, the ones that had been delinquent for last year. We didn't go back any farther because the properties that went to new owners back in the last few years, it was it wouldn't have worked. It didn't seem like something we should do.
And so this is a change in process that essentially has now notified all of these landlords of these delinquent charges, but normally these would be assessed at the time of the sale of the home, correct? Okay, so, so one way or another, they're getting on there, but this is more of a way that we've identified that we can play catch-up so that we don't run into these. And what did you say was kind of the total when we were coming out of the gates with this?
We started about 9,800.
Okay, 9,800, and so far we're at about 7,800. Okay. And this was the only conversation you've had, or other? Okay,
Well, no, there was several other landlords that called as well that we've talked to
with questions, but okay.
more about the process and everything.
So can I ask, why is this in front of us and not in front of Public Utilities?
They were notified of the list as well, but I believe it has to come to council. We've been through the process with the attorneys, and they've explained the process and what we need to do.
My fear is to forgive one would open the door to, have everyone share their unusual circumstances of why this happened to their property. And I don't know that do we have the authority to do, so maybe that's a question for Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Quickly to go back to the original or the first question, the city is the entity with the authority to certify these charges to the county. So this came to the city actually on a recommendation from the PUC. They obviously administer the accounts. They identified the accounts with the delinquent charges and forwarded the recommendation to the council. But it's the council that would need to take the action to certify the charges. Regarding the question about the specific circumstances of one property, I think all I can say is that the city's ordinances make these charges the responsibility of the property owner. Obviously the property owners can then enter into agreements with their tenants to make the tenants responsible for those charges, and the tenants can then open accounts. But at that point, once the ultimate responsibility is assigned to the property owners in city code, it's really a private property issue between the landlord and the tenant at that point. So I think the city is certainly on firm legal footing to certify these charges. And, obviously understanding that staff is open to process improvements to keep the property owners in the loop going forward. But I don't know that that necessarily changes the analysis for the city council at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Ms. Amira?
Hi, yes, Assistant Finance Director Danielle Amira. I also just wanted to point out an option for landlords would be to put the water and wastewater in their name so they can charge their tenants that way. So then they always know what the charges are, and they'll be getting, those notices if they're late or whatever. That is an option as well.
Thank you.
The only other concern I have now is that's fine this time, but now since it's on this other guy's name, how are we going to legally do that?
If you can just, come back up to the microphone. Her comment was because there's a delinquent utility bill in the name of someone else that they can't reach, how will that affect their ability to get the utilities on the property? Am I understanding that question correctly?
Yep.
Okay,
How are we
thank
going
you.
to correct, that's our big concern, because right now we have no legally binding with this guy. And he could rack up bills, and what are we going to do about it?
And is the property currently occupied
Yes,
with one of the two tenants?
not the one on the utility bill,
But the other tenant?
the one other tenant, yep, he still lives there.
Could you assess that back to the tenant?
Well, he's probably going to get evicted because of this, because he signed the contract. But if he doesn't go, because the lawyer said he could make
There's a
do,
lot
and
of
he can
rights, yes.
stay. So that's my concern, is if he stays and the utilities are still in this other guy's name, and how are we going to address that in the future?
That would be a utility question, I believe. I mean, because this does sound like a personal matter and not something that would be, picked up and decided by the council.
Right.
So, but there is a valid question of, what does the city do now about the utilities being in a non-tenant name and a non-responsible party?
I mean, you were certainly able to come in and put the utilities in your name at this point, so at least you know what charges are there. That doesn't help to get the money from him, I'm sure. We are trying to make it part of the process so landlords know sooner rather than waiting that 4-month process before we would go to collections.
Right, yep.
So that you can at least hold a deposit in the situation where you have a deposit to hold.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah, I know, it's one of those that,
Yeah.
and they know how to play the system.
Right.
Okay.
So the recommendation from the Assistant Finance Director was you do have the option to put the water and sewer in your name and then attempt to assess those charges back to that tenant with the possibility that he may or may not pay those, but that would be a private matter between you and the tenant.
All right.
All
Hey,
right. Thank you so much. This is still a public hearing. Would anyone else care to be heard?
So our attorney's recommending that we not waive or lower the fee. I don't know if I agree with that. Does sound like maybe we have some responsibility here because we're fixing an error, so.
We're not fixing an error, we're just making a change to a process.
Procedures so we don't run into this again.
charges would have been
Right.
assessed
This
if
is-
they had ever sold a home. They would have gone to the property at that point. So they're seeing the charges now instead of when they would sell the home maybe 5-10 years down the line.
I guess I appreciate the fact that they attended the public hearing to try to explain their matter to us, so we're all aware of it as
They've been-
council
yeah, they've been
members
very
Certainly
nice to work
frustrating,
with, but-
absolutely.
in capacities.
Yep, sorry.
My comments are, this is an improvement to an existing process that's going to unfortunately come with some growing pains. I think that as a city, we're trying to do the right thing by notifying landlords ahead of time of these. It sounds like a lot of the landlords try to do the right things by getting the right agreements in place, but the cards don't always fall the way that they do when we have renters, and so, I don't know, those are my comments.
I mean, I guess based off of our information, I'm gonna offer a resolution to waive the reading, closing the public hearing, and establish special assessments for the 2022 delinquent water and wastewater charges.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
I would like to have seen us at least cut it in half, but
But would we do that for all of them? Everyone is going to have a story about a tenant on what, why it wasn't paid. There's going to be surprise that they didn't know that this wasn't paid. This person doesn't live there. How am I going to collect this? I think that I'm in favor of having a discussion on it, but not singling out one individual doing something that would be fair, Do you know what I'm saying? Because then that opens it up for everyone else to come on these one-offs. But if we do something that's clear and that's the same, I think, that would be my opinion.
I
And my
understand.
addition to the discussion.
I understand the landlord's hardship with it and whatnot, but if I'm correct, the finance director, this came to us a couple months ago. We're going to change our policy to better it, correct? I mean,
That
so
was
all,
part of the charter changes.
right, all counselors were aware we're going to change it. There was a glitch or two in it. This should correct it. Now the owners will get notified way earlier, 4 months earlier. So we're taking a step in the right direction. And yay for our charter, because utilities owes us one.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack,
Yes.
Counselor Christian,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz.
No.
Counselor Warmka,
Yes.
and President Becker.
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 3.1, summary of business conducted during board meetings and committee meetings. Any updates?
Just, I can give an update from the Sister City Commission. There's going to be a tour from New Ulm to Ulm, Germany in May of 2023. And if anybody's interested, they can look up on the city's website. We've got a link there tied to the Sister City program. And we've got about a dozen, 15 people that are signed up and looking to fill 30 spots, and then hopefully to try to keep the relationships going between New Ulm and Ulm, Germany.
Very nice. Anyone else?
Nothing new to report here.
Due to lack of agenda items, no park and rec meeting, and for some reason, it's actually a double report by counselors. I had already given the HPC report to the council, so nothing.
The EDA, I think we're probably not a lot different than the meeting before as far as any updates. We're working on the pod model and working on the grants. Our cable commission was supposed to meet, and that meeting got canceled. We're still waiting. There was an agreement, just so the council members know, that when Comcast closed their doors, the franchise agreement said they can't. They had to have an open store in our community. And so they violated the contract. So that is sitting on Mr. Scott's desk, or will be shortly, for him to review and give us recommendations on where to go with that, because they are in violation of the contract. So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Excellent.
Mayor?
The commissions that the mayor's in charge of filling are, for the most part, done. There's a few yet I haven't, but I'm pleased that so many people have stepped up. When you start doing this in October, it's not clear that anybody wants to do it, but little by little, they're getting filled. And I'm signed up for the trip to Germany, for the Sister Cities trip. It's going to be great.
And also, I had heard that with your retirement coming up, you'll be available to serve on boards and commissions.
Oh, my God.
When you try to get everyone else to serve.
The ones I wanted to are already filled, darn it.
Oh.
You can be a friend of the commission and go to every meeting yet.
Thank you for those updates. Item number 4.1, report from Engineer Stadheim regarding the 2023 proposed capital improvement program.
Thank you, Madam President, City Councilors. I'm pleased to be before you tonight to present our 2023 capital improvement program report. Just quick agenda for the presentation tonight. We'll go through our recent reconstruction history, look at where our road conditions are today, go through the proposed projects for 23, and then eventually we'll end up going through our 5-year CIP list. So our recent reconstruction activity history, which is section 1 of the report in front of you tonight. 2008, we started with 29 miles of failed roadway segments, and now we're down to 9.18 miles of that. With the chart here, you can see how many miles have been reconstructed per year and the approximate cost of that. And obviously, you can see construction costs really ballooned in 2022. With that, we were averaging about 2.5 miles of reconstruction per year. This is just a line graph of distribution of our pavement conditions. You can see back in 2010 where we're at and how we've made, I would say, significant progress to reduce that failed category while increasing our adequate and maintaining our marginal. So we have about 9.18 miles, or 10.5% of failed roadways, 21.42 miles of marginal roadways, are 24.4%, and that's shown by the yellow line. And then our adequate or green line is 65.1 miles of roadway, and that's about 65%. So the next map just is a depiction of what that condition network looked like in 2010. Lots of red, not a lot of green. And when you flip that and look at 2022, whole lot of green, not so much red, not so much yellow. So really is just a depiction of the progress that we've made in the last 15 years. We have the same information for our alley segments as well. So of the 233 total paved alley segments in town, 67 of those are failed, 104 are marginal, and 62 of those are adequate. And again, another map showing that. That's much more red and yellow than we would like to see. We have a number of alleys that are reaching the end of their useful life, and you'll see that as we go through the listing report for our future 5-year program.
Joe, who pays for an alley to be paved?
The adjoining property owners, yep. So next is kind of the process that we go through to decide what segments we're going to select. And that's kind of found in section 2 of the report. A lot of it is based on pavement condition. And then we kind of go around the circle, look at pavement condition, what's the curb and gutter look like, how about the underground utilities. So we evaluate all of those needs, look on if the segment needs ADA improvements. So if you remember back in June of 2019, the City Council adopted the ADA transition plan and, complete streets policy. So that aids us in our project design. Also involved in this process is soliciting public input. So the Safety Commission reviewed the plan on October 6th and recommended approval in terms of the program meeting the complete streets policy of the city. And we engaged in public outreach meetings. The 2023 MSAS improvement project, that open house was held on June 29th. And you subsequently ordered that project in on September 20th. And the 2023 USA Public Open House meeting was conducted on October 12th with members of the public participating. So with that, we'll jump into section 3 of the report, and that's the proposed 2023 improvements and associated estimated costs. So first project will be the 2023 USA project. First location on that project is Washington Street from 7th South to 10th South, a complete utility and roadway reconstruction project. As you can see, we have 80-year-old utilities. The roadway has failed with a score of 4. Roadway scores are from 0 being absolutely failed to 100 is brand new, with an approximate cost of almost $1.5 million. Next location is Minnesota Street, 7th North to 9th North. Again, complete roadway and utility reconstruction. There, the utilities are a bit more aged, 100-year on the sewer, 107 years on the water main. Estimated cost is about $1 million on that segment. Oakwood Avenue from Becker Road to Milford Street, that will be a roadway reconstruction with selective replacement of the concrete curb and gutter and sidewalk improvements. If you've traveled up on that segment, you would notice on the north side of the roadway there's significant curb heaving, which is causing the driveways to have quite the drop-offs on the concrete approaches. So we're proposing to replace all of the curb on the north side and the concrete approaches to rectify that and replace the failed drain tile that we suspect is causing that differential settlement and heaving. Estimated cost on that is $671,000. And then we get into a few alleys that are bunched together. Alley Block 97 South, 8 South to 9 South between Broadway and State Street. That's OCI of 10, estimated cost of $46,000. 96 South is between 9th and 10th South in that same area, and that's a completely failed alley segment. And then 96 South is 12th South to 13th South, so not quite all in a line, but fairly close to one another, another completely failed alley segment, and that's a estimated cost of $46,000 as well.
Question for the city engineer before we get way into it and have to go back. On the alley reconstruct, okay, a failed alley, right?
Yep.
Asphalt alley. So property owners technically, they don't have a say in that this time around.
Well, we'll still have public hearing and whatnot for projects once we get to that point, yep.
I noticed the cost, I mean, I get it,
Yep.
it's rising.
And item to note on the alleys is we just don't pick and choose those. We really rely on our street department staff for helping us choose which ones we need to get to. So these are the worst of the worst that they can't maintain anymore. It can't be Band-Aided, we can't seal coat it, we can't Dura patch it or anything anymore, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Joe, on the alleys, is there a plan in place, or are we gonna wait until the homeowners come to us before to like pave a gravel alley?
Gravel alley is generally a petition by the adjoining property owners. While I've been here, I don't think we've went out and done any just to do it. It's generally on the petition of the adjoining property owners. Reconstructs are a different story, but initial improvements are generally we rely on those adjoining property owners to initiate that. Okay, and then the final project here on the USA is the just a miscellaneous storm sewer and sidewalk repairs. We have, a couple structures at 19th North and Front that we discovered need to be repaired. So that's part of that project, and then the ADA ramps as part of the street department's surface reconstruction project. Right, now we'll jump into the MSAS improvement project, which I'll run through this pretty quickly, is North Highland Avenue Mill and Overlay from Oak Street to Highway 14. Much to Councilor Schultz' excitement.
I've been waiting for a lot of years.
I think a lot of people have. Estimated cost is almost $850,000. And then North Broadway from 20th North Street to Casat 13, or the newly named North Highland Avenue. And that's going to be a construction method that we haven't necessarily done in town before, and that's a full depth reclamation. So we're going to recycle the existing bituminous underlying aggregate base, grade it, and pave on top of that. So it will produce a strengthened roadway section and is the least disruptful for the businesses and property owners along that segment. And
That's
about-
slated for May 1st to start?
we haven't gone out for bids yet, so.
Did you say me first or May 1st?
I said May 1st, but
Green list, you never started first.
I know, I was hoping.
No, Highland will for sure be after school's out for the summer, so. A couple other miscellaneous projects here would be lights and gates at the Valley Street Railroad Crossing. We received some federal monies for that, so that's a 90-10 federal local cost share on that crossing improvement, safety improvement project.
Can it only be used there?
It can only be used there. That one's been identified by the state as improvements being needed. And then the 2023 Brown County project is, this project is dependent on the county receiving state aid or state park road account funding. We won't know that until April of 2023, but this would be a mill and overlay of Casat 26, which is 10th South Street from Broadway all the way into the state park. Again, I'm including it, don't know if it's going to happen. County is hopeful that they will receive the funding. They applied a couple years ago, didn't get the funding, so they're trying again for that. And then the surface reconstruction project, this is done by the city street department. First segment up is German Street from 12th South to 16th South Street, and as part of full disclosure, I own property on this segment of roadway, so as we get into the assessment portion of this policy, just want the council to be aware. I live there. I'm assessing myself as in the same manner that the other property owners are being assessed along that roadway segment as well. Other segments are State Street from 17th North to 19th North and 8th North Street from Broadway to Washington. That would complete the 8th North section by the city street department. 17th North Street from Franklin to Jefferson, and then 6th South Street, Broadway to German, and 1st South from Valley to Front. Again, roughly a surface reconstruction project is about $43,000 per block for cost estimates. Some airport projects. As of right now, it's looking, which later in the meeting tonight, there's an item concerning the parking lot rehab at the airport. A lot of this is dependent on when we can get the federal grant and where we get in the cycle. It's looking like, for sure, hopefully the parking lot we get done in 2023. The other items listed, the apron expansion, fuel system replacement, and the wildlife safety fencing may not happen, but we're going to keep them included as we keep going after federal grants to complete those projects at the airport. then something different this year is our tree planting project. As part of the USA project, generally we have trees that have to come down, and then we plant the trees on the US as part of that project. But what happens, we have to maintain a 2-year warranty on that tree, so that means we have to keep the project open for 2 years, and it's really become a cumbersome process for the contractor because that means they have to keep their bond open for that amount of time, and it's just kind of a cost tracking, kind of a headache. So our plan is to do the trees as a separate standalone project, as the tree contractors are better suited to deal with those extended warranty periods. So it'll allow us to close the other projects sooner, and then just track the tree planting separately. So in total, if we add all the 2023 projects up, we're at just over $9 million. And if interested, Section 9 of the report has a full cost estimate breakdown in detail for each project location. And here's the map depicting those project locations. So here's our proposed delivery schedule. We're kind of right in the middle of the utility street and alley improvement delivery. We're hoping to have the public hearing in February and then awarding contracts in March. We are kind of awaiting MnDOT's review on the MSAS project. They have our final plans. We've received comments back. We've made revisions. And I believe Bolton & Mink will be sending the revised plan to MnDOT hopefully this week. And then once we get the okay from MnDOT, then we'll be able to set that bid date and get that project under contract. Section 4 of the report talks about our bonding needs. Not going to go through all the numbers here, but I did highlight 2 of them that are as far as federal and MSAS funding. Last week or week and a half ago, I found out that city was awarded an additional $550,000 in federal funds for the 2023 MSAS improvement project. So what that in turn, it really doesn't affect our bonding at all, but it really reduces the amount of MSAS funds we have to use, so that saves us 2023 MSAS funds that we can then use for the roundabout at Highland and Highway 14 in 2024. So very excited about that, and a lot of that funding is all due to the IIJA funds that got shuffled to the states and then through the local districts. So I was very excited about that. So with all that said, and in Section 4 of the report talks about our feasibility, or Section 5 talks about their feasibility. The bonding needs are in Section 4 of the report, but with all this information together, I believe the recommended improvements are necessary, feasible, and they are grouped to enhance the constructability and provide a cost-effective capital improvement program, and that is outlined in Section 5. Next section is special benefit and methodology. That's Section 6 of the report. We don't have any initial improvements in this year's report, so our reconstruction of existing improvements are based on resolutions 8850 and 9035 that we assess 60% of the general cost to reconstruct the city street on a per parcel basis. The 2023 proposed amounts are $4,500 for a complete reconstruct. So the full depth reclamation amount would be $2,925 per residential parcel, and the surface reconstruction amount would be $2,025 per residential parcel, and that's assessed fully to the abutting property owners. And again, we don't assess for utility reconstructions, as that's funded through the infrastructure fee on utility bills. Alleys are assessed fully to those property owners that abut the project. So quickly, I'll go through the special benefit amounts. Again, Washington Street, we're proposing to assess $162,000. Minnesota Street, $121,500. Oakwood Avenue, $99,000. Then the alleys, again, the assessment would equal that construction amount of $46,200. And then no special assessments are assigned for the sidewalk improvements and miscellaneous storm sewer work. Again, the 2023 MSAS improvement, Highland, we are not assessing, and North Broadway is assessed at the amount of $207,675. No assessments for the railroad, Brown County, or the Brown County project. Again, the assessment rate per parcel for the surface reconstruction projects are based on a per residential parcel, that $2,025. You can see the amounts listed there. Again, the amounts listed per project location. So in summary, you can see our CIP costs again at that $9 million, and then we're proposing to assess $935,325. Then we'll jump into our projected 5-year project listing, starting with 2024, and that's Section 8 of the report. Utility street and alley improvements in 2024 would be Bridge Street, Cottonwood Street to Tower Road, complete utility and roadway reconstruction. Initial roadway improvements in Lakeside Village, and a couple more alleys and miscellaneous sidewalk. 2024 MSAS improvement project is 20th South Street from Broadway to the Minnesota River Bridge, and almost $4.5 million complete roadway and utility reconstruction project. I should note we are currently soliciting project feedback on the 20th South project. The link for that is on our city website, so residents can feel free to provide any comments that they think we need to improve in that corridor as well. Highlight item of 2024 is going to be the roundabout at Highland and Highway 14. We're proposing some recreational trail reconstruction in 2024, provided we can get grant funding for that. And then surface reconstruction project, again, 12 blocks, and then continued work at the airport, provided that's uncompleted projects from 23 or phase 2 of the wildlife fencing. Almost $12 million worth of projects scheduled for 2024. And there's a map of those locations. 2025, utility street and alley improvements, $4 million. Section of German Street from center to 3rd North, Valley Street from center to 3rd North, 12 South Street, Minnesota to Valley. And then we'll have 1 block North Broadway between 19th and 20th North. And then more alleys, sidewalk improvements, railroad crossing safety improvements. That's for 16th South Street, lights and gates at that crossing. Again, there'll be another 90/10 federal local cost share. And then, again, another 12 blocks of surface reconstruction for almost $5 million worth of projects. There's the map showing those. 26, State Street, 12th North to 16th North by the fairgrounds. German Street, kind of continuing to the south on that, center to 3rd South. Minnesota Street, 19th North to 20th North Street, that'll be initial roadway improvements. That's that gravel section up by the bowling alley, and another alley segment. And then proposed 2026 MSAS improvement project would be Garden Street from center to 5th North Street. More rec trail reconstruction, again, assuming we can receive some grant funding for that. And then, again, with the I think we had 11 blocks of surface reconstruct shown for almost $9 million worth of work. Again, those locations. And then finally, 2027, we have earmarked Front Street from Center Street to 3rd South Street. The road is in good shape down there, but that's really to extend that trunk sanitary sewer main with the intent to eliminate the Center Street lift station. So we'll work in conjunction with the PUC on that. That will really depend on PUC finding maybe some grant funding or bonding funds to complete that section. State Street from Center Street to 2nd South Street by the county courthouse. More alleys, more sidewalk, and then another 12 blocks of surface reconstruction project and tree planting for almost $5 million worth of work. There's a depiction of those locations and combining them all together. It's plenty of colored segments on the map, so we have a lot of work ahead of us. So when you combine all that, we're at $39 million worth of improvements that we're proposing in the next 5 years. And with that, reached the end of the presentation, but be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Stadheim.
One comment probably for the finance director. I caught right at the end, you said about the elimination of the lift station on Center Street. Doesn't bonding for PUC have to go through us?
No, they do their own.
Okay.
I think the hope is there would be some state bond funds through the legislator, but
I know we've talked about this before, but sometimes we have these streets that end up right next to a construction area where the big heavy trucks are hauling gravel or semis, and we've talked about how maybe unfair it is for those residents that happen to live in that area to get assessed reconstruction when had that the construction project not been there, the road would have lasted longer. And have we ever address that more thoroughly, or should we? What's your thoughts on that?
I guess my answer to that would be we assess them according to the methodology we have in place, regardless of, in the instance of North Island Avenue, obviously that roadway didn't reach its useful life, so that's why we're not assessing for that. But in the event, I mean, if it happens to be a truck route that somebody lives on where there is increased traffic and things like that, I don't see a reason to vary from our methodology that we have adopted when it comes to assessments.
We have to meet certain assessment limits as well in order
Yeah,
to bond.
we still have
I'm not
to,
saying not to assess them at all, but I can't remember the street down on off of Garden that right by the gravel pit where the trucks were hauling gravel out of there for so long, and that road got ripped up in like 3 years. And this is quite a while back, but so we redid the road, and the neighbors came in here and said, "Wait a minute, this isn't fair," and I agree with them. So maybe it's a work session topic someday. Otherwise, good job. I very thorough, well done. I will offer a motion to adopt the proposed 2023 capital improvement program and acknowledge receiving and hearing the engineer's report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Nice job.
Yes, nice job. I read through like the 46-page packet and, some of those things, and it's nice to see what's going up and how, the costs are going up, but the amount of work we're having to do is, we're getting caught up, so.
thank you, council.
Yes, any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. All right, item number 5.1, ordinance number 2022-066, fifth series, second consideration regarding the schedule of fees.
Council President, councilors, I do have one amendment correction up for discussion for the fees. We had looked at weed and snow removal doing a graduated scale, 100, 200, 300. Conferring with staff, it would be a better use of staff time and the work to have a single fee that is just every single time. So whether it's 150, pick a fee, and every single notice is that fee. To do a graduated scale on our end, we don't have a way to look up if someone had been assessed, a fee. So if it's a single fee every single time, whatever it is that you set, staff's recommendation would be 150 per time, plus the cost of.
And what is it now?
What are we doing now? Right now, it's currently 300 as a one-time fee, and that's it. And then the cleaning, the graduated scale was 100, 200, 300, and then 300 additional. At that time, what we're recommending, what staff is recommending, is 150 per time, regardless of the number of violations.
After speaking with the building official on that topic and going through that in the past, it is easier for staff time. If you have to go back and virtually look, was it assessed in 87, 97, or what year? This is actually easier. 150 is the base fee plus contractors, time and material, whatever they use. To me, it's easier, and it still hurts. We don't want to be in the snow business. $150 a time, you're not going to shovel, that's what you're going to pay. It does take a lot of staff time.
I can agree with that.
I would agree too. worth a shot. I know I think it was last year we went in and just said we wanted to be out of the snow removal business and lawn business, and we said we're gonna hit them hard, but, here, they're getting a 2-for-1 almost.
And it would be the same fee for weed removal as well,
Yeah.
150 each plus fee.
Plus contractors, time, and material. So you want that into this motion?
Yes, please. If everyone's okay with that.
I'm all right with it. Okay, motion to conduct the second consideration of ordinance number 2022-066, fifth series, amending section 2.99 of the city code of the city of Nome relative to the schedule of fees, and also adopt the new weed and snow removal as discussed, $150 per time, and contractors' cost and material.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 6.1, under new business, a canvass of the 2022 municipal general election and declare results of the
I'll offer a
election.
motion to approve the canvassing of the 2022 municipal general election and declare the results of the election.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion or comments by the finance director?
No, I was just going to point out that Kathleen Backer got the most votes for mayor. Eric Warmka will continue in Ward 2, and Larry Mack will continue in Ward 4.
Thank you. And thanks for everyone that came out to vote and the 253 people that registered in New Ulm on Election Day. Thank you. Okay. Any other additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 6.3, Active Transportation Infrastructure Program Grant Support.
6-2.
Oh, sorry, 6.2. Sorry, City Council appointments for January 2023.
Okay, I do have to find it on here. We actually changed it last year, that the mayor goes to the CVB, wherever that is on here. I know I saw it. There it is. New Ulm Convention and Visitors Bureau. Current representative is Mr. T. Sweeney and will be Kathleen Backer.
I thought I saw my name was still on there for the
Chamber.
and that's, I was released from that committee, right, Sarah? Is that? Oh, Sarah.
She had to leave.
She had to leave. I was released because we don't provide funding anymore, so I'm not a representative of that committee anymore.
Any other changes?
No. We'll
If
make a
that's
motion
it,
to receive order filed report from the finance director regarding appointments to be made by the city council at the annual city council meeting on Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? I just want to make a note that there'll be an open position on the Airport Commission that will need to be filled by the Ward 3 counselor. And if you're interested in that, talk to your counselor.
Yes, if you're interested, let me know.
Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Now, item 6.3, Active Transportation Infrastructure Program Grant Support. I have to say that twice.
Madam President, City Councilors, before you today, I'm just looking for council support in applying for this Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant. What I'm proposing with this grant would be the installation of RRFBs, or the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, at the intersections of Center Street and Highland, Center Street and Garden, 10 South and Payne, North Highland Avenue, formerly Boundary Street, and North Broadway, or the KC Road, North Highland Avenue, again, formerly Boundary Street, and CASA 29, and 5th North and Washington Street. The RFBs, there's a pamphlet within your packet showing what they are, but they're pedestrian activated to assist with pedestrians in crossing heavily trafficked roadways. Safety Commission has previously expressed support of staff finding funding opportunities to enhance safety for pedestrians and trail users. Some of these locations have been identified as barriers for pedestrians and bicyclists and are along the bike loop as well. MnDOT opened solicitations for the applications. I submitted a letter of intent on October 4th and was approved to move forward with the full application. And the application period closes at the end of the year. I believe this is a good opportunity to, if awarded the funds, to enhance the safety at numerous difficult intersections for bicycle users. While it doesn't take the responsibility for those users away completely, it hopefully draws attention to them and it gets vehicle yielding to increase at those locations. So again, today, just asking for your support as the form of a resolution that I can include with the grant application. And then also within that would be a commitment to providing local funds should the match be required. And if that match is required, we would be able to use MSAS funding for that as well.
That was my question.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, offering full project support of the installation of rectangular rapid flashing beacons at the intersections of, I suppose you want them all read in,
Please, that would be preferable.
Center Street and Highland Avenue, Center Street and Garden Street, 10 South Street and Payne, North Highland Avenue to North Broadway, the KC Road, North Highland Avenue, Casad 29, and 5th North Street and Washington Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Joe, there's none in town now, are there?
We don't have any yet, correct?
What about on Broadway and that third or fourth south where they did the flag?
Broadway's a different animal dealing with the state.
I
so.
figured as much, okay.
And just for reference, I didn't mention this earlier, but I have spoken to the county commissioners. I have their tentative support, and I'm getting a resolution from them hopefully next week. So as a number of these are on CASAS systems. So
Super.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Just to complete, and support of city staff submitting the active transportation infrastructure program grant application and a commitment to providing local funds for the project should a match be required. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. Item number 6.4, Task Order 2020-2 for Airport Engineering Services.
Madam President, City Councilors, this is just a task order for our professional services contract with Mead and Hunt at the airport in the amount of almost $45,000 to provide engineering services for the design of the reconstruction of the airport terminal parking lot and sidewalk entrance. Airport Commission was unable to consider this as we didn't have a quorum at their meeting, but the parking lot has come into a state of needing to be reconstructed, and our pedestrian ramps at the terminal building are not ADA compliant, so that would bring those into compliance as well. The FAA grant delivery schedule has been expedited to potentially have funding available earlier in the construction season. In order to get on that timeline, we'd need to start design work as soon as possible so we can have bids or bid package ready in April. So if approved tonight, Mead and Hunt would start in earnest to deliver this project.
I'll offer a motion to approve the task order number 2020-2 for Airport Engineering Services to Mead and Hunt Professional Services Contract, amount of $44,950, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 6.5, ordinance number 2022-TBD, first consideration on zoning. Mr. Schnobrick?
Madam President, members of the City Council, earlier this evening, you conducted a public hearing on the plat of Milford Heights 7th Edition. And we talked about how we're reducing the number of lots from 6 to 4, and that's in order to accommodate 2 twin homes. Twin homes are not a permitted use in the current zoning for that property, which is R4 high-density residential. So it's necessary to change that to R2, which is single and two-family residential. The property is legally described as lots 8 through 13, Block 2, Milford Heights, 2nd Edition, and it's generally located west of Haberly Avenue and south of Beinhart Street.
Thank you, Mr. Schnoberg.
I'm going to offer a motion to conduct the first consideration of ordinance number 2022, amending Chapter 3.2 of Appendix A of the City Code of the City of New Ulm relative to zoning in the said city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item number 6.6, library donations and memorials.
I'll offer a resolution, waive the reading, accepting donations and memorials to the New Ulm Public Library for the period July 1st to September 30th, 2022.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Do we need to read in the donations?
No, you waive the reading.
Oh, we waived the read. Yes, thank you. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Carries. Item number 6.7, Police Department donation.
I'll again offer a resolution, waive the reading to accept a monetary donation of $500 from Minnesota South Central Investigators Coalition to be used to support Shop with a Hero program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Christian? Yes. Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, that motion does carry. With no additional business, today's meeting is adjourned. We will move into a work session shortly.